this is one of the ways I know that this is being very effective. I have talked over the last 4 years. I've talked to two of our finance managers about the
Mm,
Wingspan coaching, and to say this is how much we're spending, and this is how much this is been the business impact. And I've said, do you think we should continue? And they said, I don't think we can afford not to continue. When you get a finance person who tends to be very bottom line focused, to say we are seeing the results as a result of our behavioral work, I don't know what more ringing endorsement you could ask for.
Welcome to Leading Without the BS. For folks who are regular listeners, you probably have heard me talk about my favorite team to work with, and you may have heard me mention Pennsylvania. Today, I am so unbelievably excited to have Brandon Burns here. He is the site manager for Veeder-Root, where they make parts for gas pumps and in-ground fuel management. So if next time you pull up to a gas station, take a look. If you see a Gilbarco Veeder-Root, that's this guy and his team putting that together so you can put gas into your vehicle. In the 4 years we've been working together, it has been so incredible to get to work with Brandon. His dedication to his growth, to doing the things that a lot of leaders don't like to do or aren't comfortable doing. Number one is identifying their own behavioral gaps, pushing his own and his team's performance to the limit, and then also having really healthy and challenging conversations with his peers and with his managers, not just his direct reports. So I am thrilled again to welcome Brandon to the podcast. Brandon, welcome.
Yeah, happy to be here. Appreciate you inviting me to be the podcast with you.
Oh my gosh, it's been too long. It's been too long.
That's great.
So if you're good, we'll jump right in.
Sure.
All
Let's go
right.
for it.
So Veeder-Root is the industry leader in building fuel components that help with fuel management and also do things like detect leaks.
Yeah.
When you and I started working together 4 years ago, what was the leadership leak that you were sensing was going on with your team? And
Yeah.
what was that performance looking like?
Yeah. So when I first started with Wingspan, and I was very new to this position, just a month into this role, and my first time in a site leadership role. And so one of the things that I recognized about myself was that I was saying too much, and in many
Mm,
cases, I thought that saying my point and reiterating it and giving examples was helping the situation. And in reality, I was saying too much. I was burying the point I was trying to make. And so by saying less, I found a way to be able to be more effective and to say more with my team.
yeah.
So that's been a real learning for me.
You have a real down to earth, collegial, easy to get along with persona. And looking back, when did that get in the way of either challenging other people or even doing your internal work to help you level up?
Yeah. So I had tried to be overly nice, or I thought maintaining a cool, calm demeanor was probably a good thing. And what I found, and actually some of the feedback I've gotten from my team, is that when I come with that same level of intensity, that same affect in my speech with all situations, it's hard to
Mm,
tell what's important and what's truly critical to the business. And so one of the things you've helped me to understand is, how do I use um to actually choose my intensity that I'm going to bring to the situation and make it appropriate for the given situation. And so by expanding that range, my team has a better feel for um how to treat that with what priority.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny because I've had for myself an awareness. I typically use a lot of range. I've worked for people though who were either super calm or mostly calm, and it's
Hmm.
what I'm working to figure out how big of a deal is this right now, and
Yeah,
it was really hard. So that's cool that you sorted through that.
absolutely. Yeah.
When you started to make these changes, I bet it was different for the team. And all of a sudden, they're like, "Oh, this is a different side of Brandon showing up." What did you tell
Yeah.
them to help them understand that this was intentional and it was designed to be productive?
Yeah, so I recognized that that was a gap in my own behavior and my own skill, and so I was just very upfront with them early on to say that I was trying something new, that my goal was to be more effective for them and for myself. And so it wasn't just about me kind of losing my cool, or that I had kind
Mm.
of lost my temper about something. It was about me helping them to understand what's truly important for the business.
Speaking of the business and your team,
Yeah.
lots of manufacturing leaders spend a lot of time looking at the data. What does this spreadsheet say, or what is this dashboard telling me? I'm sure at some point you realized that having beautiful data on a piece of paper and having, or was a very different thing than having a high performing team. When did that click for you?
So it- it's one of those things where I think most people recognize that behaviors are important. They have a hard time verbalizing it. They have a hard
Mm.
time challenging others to impact their behavior. I recently took on a expanded team, and so just in the last 6 months or so. And with that team, I wanted to start to talk to them about behaviors. And so I had them do two things. The first thing I had them do was take a look at their growth and development goals and their team's growth and development goals.
Mm.
And we walked through it. And it had a lot to do with leading Kaizen events and getting better at using programs on their computers and that sort of thing. And then about a half an hour later, I talked to them about, I asked them to imagine the best coworker they've ever had. And I said, tell me about the best coworker they've ever had, you ever had.
Nice.
And they described things like they challenged me to grow and develop, that they were always prepared, that they truly listened to me and they tried to understand. And so then I brought up a discussion about behaviors and how the vast majority, in fact, all of the qualities of their favorite coworker were behavioral in nature.
Mm.
And when I asked them how they were challenging their team, and we looked at their growth and development goals, they were all technical in behavior.
Uh,
And so in many cases, I think leaders kind of that's an easier conversation. It's an easier conversation to say, improve your Excel skills,
sure.
or build this technical skill, than to say, you're not listening as well as you could. You're not challenging the norm. You're not holding your team accountable. Those are harder conversations.
Hmm.
And so I think people don't inherently understand behaviors as being important. They may just not act on them because it's a harder path.
Yeah. When you had that exchange with that new team, for a lot of folks, that's wait a minute. It can feel like the leader is challenging who they are instead of, hey, this is a skill set you're bringing, including behaviors and what it takes to get to the next level. How did they respond when you challenged them?
Yeah, during the exercises, they were, new leader. They're working through things. We're talking, and everything's cool. And I said, so through this behavioral piece, I asked how many people understood that behaviors were important, and they all said, oh yeah, I get it. I see where you're coming from. And then I laid out my expectation that they would each have
Mm.
a behavioral goal, growth and development goal. And by the way, I was going to share my behavioral growth and development goal with them as well. And there was a little bit of a pucker moment there, but overall it was well accepted, and the point hit home that they truly down deep understood the need, and it was just a
Mm.
matter of someone taking the initiative to challenge them on it.
Yeah. It probably helped that you've shown and are owning your responsibility to grow your behavioral skill set, advance your mindset, behavior, communications. And so that probably made it easier for them to go, well, if this guy's doing it, I can certainly do it. Backing up the bus, like where did you first find the guts to say, hey, it's time for me to upgrade my behaviors that I'm bringing to the table?
Yeah. So, my leadership journey, or style, is
Mm.
deeply rooted in servant leadership. And so, one of the qualities of servant leadership is humility, and it's just being um, able to say the truth, which is that I don't have all the answers, and I don't know everything. And so, at the end of the day, uh, I'm an engineer by training,
Mm.
and I gravitated towards engineering and towards manufacturing because I'm a very pragmatic person. And so, what I found is that servant leadership is simply the most effective way to lead. And
Mm.
so, knowing that that works better than other ways, has driven me to be that humble leader and try to just help people understand that we're all in this together. That even just because of my position doesn't mean that I have all the answers.
Yeah.
Um, command and control. To be clear, too, command and control type of leadership is effective. It's only effective for a short period of time.
Yeah.
And so, in order to really have that lasting leadership presence, you have servant leadership is the path to that. So that involves me being open to being sharing where I have gaps and what I'm working on to improve my skill.
If someone listening to this is going, "Ah, man, that guy's got big cojones. I'm not sure I can make the jump." How would you encourage them to find that extra gear, that driver to make the same jump you did?
In the same way that they see gaps with their team,
Mm,
it's easy to recognize. I think anyone who has some self reflection recognizes that they have some opportunity to grow and develop in one way or another. There's a book I like to use called FYI. It's a 4-year improvement, and it has a list of 63 different leadership capabilities. And
mhm.
one of my favorite discussions with people is to say that no one is good at all 63 of these things. Just by saying that you're working on something doesn't mean you're bad at everything.
Sure.
We all have opportunities, and so oftentimes people can treat it like it's black and white. Like I'm a good
Mm,
manager, I'm a bad manager. I'm a good engineer,
uh,
I'm a bad engineer. And being able to separate that and pick out these parts where this is really I really show up well. This is where I really shine. These are the areas where I'm not quite as practiced that
yeah.
I can use some improvement. People react very well to that. And when you tell them that you don't have all the answers, that you're a guy who's figuring out just like they are,
Yeah.
um, it creates great relationships where people can share how they want to improve as well.
Mm. And I like what you said a second ago about the all these different parameters. I often use the analogy of a report card. And it might
Yeah,
be I've got all these different subjects and I'm kicking butt in physics and I'm doing great in history. English though, kicking my ass a little bit there. That's not
yeah,
going so great.
it
so
happens.
so that's
Yeah,
that's the focus area. So yeah, I really like that.
cool.
Speaking of focus areas, when we've been in the trenches for 4 years, and if you go back to when we started, I'm sure at some point in the first little bit, there was some uncomfortable truth that I shared with you, or some uncomfortable observation that
Yeah,
at the moment probably stung, or was like, I'm not sure I like this guy. And that over time you realized has really helped you transform how you operate.
yeah,
What what comes to mind?
yeah. I take a lot of pride in being effective, and
Mm.
so one of the things that is a pet peeve of mine is red tape, and
Oh,
so things that are in the way. So you helped me recognize that I had a pattern, and that pattern was that I was playing the victim. And so I would say
uh,
things like, I can't be effective because of this policy, or I can't be effective because of this person, or this roadblock is in my way. And you very quickly helped me understand that I had way more opportunity to be effective than I was showing. And
mm,
I was actually our second meeting that you had that. And I actually had the opposite impact where you said that to me, and I went, wow, this guy is different than most of the consultants I deal with. And I really like it because he's calling me out. He's not afraid to poke the bear. That's helped me to be more effective. It's
mm,
helped me to coach up in the organization. And it's helped me to recognize that pattern with others as well. Um, there there are some people who recently have told me I'm a rebel because I want to push the envelope, because I am not afraid to go to people above me in the organization and to
mm.
say, hey, this policy, this issue is creating roadblocks that hurt the business.
Yep,
It's not about how it impacts me, it's about how it impacts the business.
yep.
And so I'm I found that courage to challenge them. It's probably where I found the most impact, is to have that um, kind of a bit of a rebel for the business type of mentality to push people. above me in the organization. There's a couple people who have come to me and said, "Hey, it seems like you're really effective in dealing with some of these senior leaders, the senior leader, that senior leader. What what are you doing that's doing that?" So that made me feel really good that my that 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 mindset, those
Mm.
behaviors, other people see it in addition to the people that I'm challenging.
When they do come and ask you that, what do you tell them?
So I talk a lot about their responsibility, and
The
so
individual who's asking.
the individual is asking.
Ah.
A common theme for me when people say, Brandon, you're pushing kind of hard with this person or that person," and I'll say, It's my responsibility as a leader
Mm.
that if decision isn't on me to make, my responsibility is to gather the data, have the impact, the business ready, and say, this is the choice, and these are the decisions, and this is the impact of those decisions. And so, um, if you think about it that way, that my responsibility doesn't stop with my level. My responsibility goes
Mm.
up, down, and sideways.
Yeah.
And so, bringing that mentality, bringing that understanding that that's really what they pay me to do,
Yeah.
gives you confidence to have that coaching up session conversation.
Yeah. You're really describing that responsibility to influence
Yes,
and to
absolutely.
work to affect how other people are thinking or seeing or understanding the situation so that
Yeah,
they can factor in more of what you understand that from your view of the business into their process.
absolutely. It's one of the earliest lessons I had with Wingspan, that I was displaying that kind of victim mentality, and so I've worked on it over the years, and it's become more of a muscle than a weakness for me. And so
Yeah.
it's been great, been great.
That
Makes you
is
feel like you're doing you're fulfilling your full responsibility as a leader.
because you are. You're
Hmm.
literally not pretending like, well, that's not me or I can't do anything about it. You're taking it head on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That is
Yep.
awesome. I'm sure there's some folks listening out there who are thinking, maybe before you said this guy challenged me, I was like, what the hell? No one's ever said that to me before. Who may be thinking, coaching sounds like it's a like a nice casual chat, and maybe you cover some smart goals, and there's probably some kind exchanges. How have you seen the Wingspan Performance System actually function for you and your team when the pressure starts to ramp up?
What I've found is that when the pressure ramps up for myself, for others, we tend to retreat into the area of most comfort. And for many of
Mm.
us, that means um, something before you were a leader, some sort of individual contributor, because many of us became leaders because we were effective in our individual contributor roles. And so when leaders get that ramped up pressure, it's not unusual for them to back themselves down, to retreat into that tactical um, comfort zone, because I was a good engineer, or I was a good teacher, or a good nurse. I know how to do that well, and so I'm gonna retreat to that. What I found with Wingspan is that I mentioned we treat the Wingspan information, the capability, as a muscle, and so the more you exercise that, the more you get comfortable there,
Mm.
and whenever the pressure ramps up, whenever it becomes difficult, if you have that muscle, you can rely on it. And so you feel more
Yeah.
comfortable in that leadership role, and you can um, approach the situation from the right place, given your role in the organization. So that's what I've seen. In times of difficulty, it's less likely that we are going to pull back. It's more like we're going to lean forward, to work on the problems that are facing us.
What are the top two muscles that you're thinking of when you say we treat this as a muscle and when we lean on these when times
Yeah,
get tough?
yeah. One is about I think one is about accountability.
Uh,
So the you've heard the phrase, "I just do it myself. I know that it'll get done right if I do it myself." And
you
so
hear that every week.
of course, yeah, right. I know how to do it. I can do it faster. I got to
Bingo.
this position because I can do it well.
Yeah.
And so the more you get, think accountability, once it becomes a strength rather than a weakness, or
Mm.
something that you're afraid of, you can rely on that. One of my favorite tools is about acknowledgement. And
Uh,
so acknowledgement is such a powerful tool that I thought I knew how to do acknowledgement well. It's just saying thank you, right? It's very easy. And so what I've learned was it felt very flat. It was thin. I was thanking people for technical things. And so I wasn't really getting into how people showed up. And so that's another area where when times get tough, both during the struggle and shortly after, it's a great time to use acknowledgement
mm,
because you're encouraging people to say, "You've come this far. This is what you're doing well. Keep working these pieces. Keep working this piece, and we're going to come out of this together." And so it creates a real team atmosphere
mm.
um, that I found to be very effective in our business.
That's cool. That's cool. So a good number of leaders will do the work to push themselves on a behavioral level. A lot of them, though, won't say anything to other people about it because it can feel weird or it can be a bit unsettling to jump into that space. You invited your entire leadership team to come with you for the ride. Hey, everybody, let's get on the bus and let's go do this together. What gave you the confidence to invite your leadership group into this experience where you all were going to have this level of shared behavioral accountability together?
Yeah, good. That's a great question. I think a lot of that is rooted in that humility and leadership um, thought process.
Mm,
Um, I was clear with my team that I was working on improving my behaviors and I expected them to work on theirs. And so I saw it as an opportunity to say, this is my approach. I'm going to use this wingspan coach that I'm going to use this material. And I brought them along for the ride so they would get to experience the same thing. Um, that started about 4 years ago. And um, it's it's put us all on a level playing field when it comes to we have strengths and we have opportunities to continue to work on those behaviors.
hmm
About a year ago, I went to my team and I said, "This is really working. This has been very effective for us. What would you think about the next level of leadership? So my direct reports. What would you think about them getting involved and starting to get coaching?" And it was immediate yes. They were very excited about it. And all of a sudden had names flying my way of people they wanted to involve. And it was at that point that I really noticed that it became the expectation within the organization. So there were there was a day where I was in a meeting and a person who had not been through the wingspan training um, asked a beautifully worded, well thought out, advancing question. And my head snapped to the left and I looked at him and I went, wow, we're without saying wingspan, without pulling the book out, without practicing, we are teaching our entire organization how to behave and how
Yep.
what's expected of us. And so um, that's incredibly um, gratifying. If you think about how
Yeah.
it's for we have about 270 employees here in the plant, and um, at the end of the day, a handful of them are involved in the wingspan sessions in
hmm
actual practice. We've impacted every last employee through this effort.
hmm
We didn't have to pull the book out. We didn't have to talk about advancing questions. We just showed up and behaved in the way that was most impactful and most effective for us, and people started to take notice.
Yeah.
And they started to mimic those behaviors. And so it was, I remember that memory is burned into my psyche here to think about that because I see how much we can have an impact over the overall organization. It's pretty cool.
That is I love that story. That is a
Yeah.
really cool example of you and peers and team members seeing how effective this can be
Yeah.
and just deciding to run with it. You you also described where it went well. I'm sure there were some spots where it perhaps was a little harder of a journey, perhaps than some of your team members were hoping for.
Yeah.
What comes to mind when I
Ah,
describe that, where it may have gotten a little more difficult?
yeah. There were a couple instances where in our excitement to try out what we've learned.
Yeah.
We probably went from 0 to 100 a couple times.
Sure.
And so I remember a certain time where there was a leader who was reading the advancing question that he had written out ahead of time off of a note card during a meeting. And people were looking around saying, what happened to this guy? Because it was such a departure from what was normal. Um, the other thing I would say we found is that not all of the leaders who have been part of the Wingspan effort have made it, and
Mm.
some have chose to say this environment isn't for me, and it helped us to say, yeah, it's really not. Like this is how we are. This is how we operate, and this is what's expected of our leaders. And it's totally fine that you have a different take. It just is not a take that we're going to allow here. And
Mm.
so those are some of the rocky areas. At the end of the day, the herd got faster because
Uh,
the people who are on board are rowing hard, and we're
yeah.
getting there, and we get there faster every day.
I
So
like that language you used of the herd got faster. I'd never thought of it like a group of elk or whatever running, and it's like, well, we're getting rid of some of the slow ones, and man, wow,
yeah,
we're going
we're taking
faster.
off.
So you're describing your team members going faster. Also, you're an incredibly business oriented and the business outcomes focused kind of guy.
Yeah.
So how is using the Wingspan system? How is supporting 4 years of coaching for you in your two of your senior most teams? How's that hitting bottom line results for you guys?
Yeah. So we're one of the more effective plans within our broader organization. We've seen some dramatic improvements in safety. We've
Uh,
seen some dramatic improvements in top line performance. And I would say we've navigated a series of difficult challenges over the last couple years, all rooted in our wingspan training. This is one of the ways I know that this is being very effective. I have talked over the last 4 years. I've talked to two of our finance managers about the
mm,
wingspan coaching, and to say this is how much we're spending, and this is how much this has been the business impact. And I've said, do you think we should continue? And they said, I don't think we can afford not to continue. And so when you get a finance person who tends to be very dollars and cents,
yeah.
bottom line focused, to say we are seeing the results as a result of our behavioral work, as a result
Mm.
of our practice. Um, I don't know what more ringing endorsement you could ask for on that one.
That is exceptional, especially for someone who usually in that position they're looking, where can we trim costs out here
A little
or
bit here, a little
there,
bit
and
there.
yeah,
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 yeah.
where can we give a haircut to?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fantastic. So for you personally, if you think
Mhm.
back to Brandon summer of 2022 and you come back to today, Brandon, what's the win you are unapologetically most proud of for you personally and how you've changed?
I mentioned earlier when I started with Wingspan, I was new to my role, and so didn't feel fully comfortable, fully
Hmm.
capable in my role. And my Wingspan practice has really gotten me to the point where I am confident that I'm doing I'm fulfilling all my responsibilities.
Mm,
One of the questions that I will often ask myself is, in this situation, what's my role? What's my responsibility in this
great question.
situation? Sometimes that means I make a decision. Sometimes that means I need to hold accountability with my team.
Mm,
Sometimes it means I need to coach up. And so that when you have that mentality and you ask yourself that question, and you can easily say, here's my contribution, here's my responsibility, it informs you how to show up with what intensity, with what intent, with
mm,
what questions to ask. And so that has been one of my most impactful learnings, is just to take the time to understand how it's best that I show up to support the business in this situation.
yeah. And that's such a great question. What's my role or responsibility in this situation. That's one. Thank you. I'm gonna steal that and tuck that into my little list of questions to use from now on.
All right.
Well, Brandon, this has been awesome, and we're now at the rapid fire round. So I
Okay.
have some slightly ridiculous questions because
Okay. Awesome.
you would be disappointed if I didn't. And then I
Yeah.
have a few more serious ones. So we'll start with the slightly ridiculous. So go fast, just a few words. First thing that comes to mind, no deep thinking. What's your daily driver?
I have a blue Jeep Wrangler, and my son always talks about these fancy cars, and I say, Logan, my dream car is a blue Jeep Wrangler. That's that. I'm told you very pragmatic. So
The one that's right there.
that's it. So I'm satisfied with my achievements. That's the
There you go.
physical representation of it.
So next question. I've had this because I have my gas tank on one side of my vehicle, of my truck, and my wife's, Kathy, is on the other side. So are you a left side or a right side gas cap preference?
I am absolutely left side because
My
you're
man.
on that side. You can see it.
Thank you.
My
Yes.
my son recently bought a car. All of our vehicles have it on the left, and my son recently bought a car with it on the right. And it's just about every time I pull up to the wrong side of the gas pump.
Ridiculous. I don't know what
Yeah.
that's even about.
No, agreed.
Regular or premium gas?
A regular.
My man. There
Regular.
you go.
That's
Love
right.
it. You're on fire. Refill at a quarter tank or pull into a gas station on fumes?
Which am I driving, my car or my wife's car at the time?
Whichever.
Okay, my car, a quarter tank. My wife's car, fumes. I hope she doesn't listen to this podcast because she'll give me a hard time about that.
Just don't tell her.
But it's true. It's true. Yeah.
First gas station you see, or I'm going to drive across town, work 6 cents cheaper.
Yeah. So I am a diehard Sheetz fan, and so I will drive 100 miles as long as I'm going to make it, to drive to a Sheetz. And so that's my favorite gas station.
All right. Last ridiculous question. When you're driving 100 miles to the Sheetz, are you going speed limit or are you going as fast as you can get away with?
I'm a little. I told you I was a rebel earlier, and so that attaches to my driving speed too. So I'm a little bit heavy on the foot.
Fantastic. That is completely approved here.
All right, cool.
Getting into the little slightly more serious, what's the most completely useless piece of corporate jargon that you hear in manufacturing today?
Oh man, so many. Maybe running up the flagpole? Is that still a thing?
I mean, I know that.
I know that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. That one's pretty bad. If it's going to be a big day at the site and you've got either a major Kaizen or some other incredibly tough work going on, what is the best walk-up song for you as you're walking in the front door?
My son and I were just at a baseball game yesterday, and we talked about walk-up songs. I like Metallica, Enter Sandman. I think that's a good one. It's got that hard, guitar to get you all prepped up for the day.
Good. That's so good.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites. If it's your options are either 4 a.m. fire alarm, something's going on at the site, or you're staying up late and doing a midnight strategy session, which one's for you?
Easy 4 a.m. I'm an early bird.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I know we have emailed each other at 5 a.m. for sure, if not earlier.
I'm quite confident we have.
Mm-hmm.
Probably more than once.
I'm sure of it.
If you were to consider the 4 years we spent working together and think about what one word describes that partnership, what would that word be?
I'm going to go with support. As you can imagine, in 4 years, we've done a lot of work in my team to get better at coaching.
Yeah.
And there inevitably comes a place where we hit our ceiling and a limit. And our first reaction is always, what would Ivan say in this situation? And reaching out to you. So support is the word I would use.
That's awesome. That is awesome. When you're not busting your butt to improve yourself or work with your team to improve their game, what's the best place for you to completely unplug and just chill out?
I've recently gotten into boating. And so I think out in the river, whether it be on a kayak or on a motorized boat, I think just out in the water somewhere is always very peaceful for me.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I love that too. So that is
cool.
One more way we connect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brandon, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for being on. You are absolutely living proof that someone can be incredibly results driven, unapologetic about their personal growth, and show us what it's like day in and day out to bring this into your real world environment on a manufacturing floor that's high paced and that is where there's not a lot of room for error. So for everyone who's
Okay.
listening, you're hearing Brandon talk about stop over managing to these technical systems and ignoring your leadership behaviors. And so, Brandon, thank you again for being here. For everyone who's listening, take a note from Brandon and you'll be leading without the BS. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you, Brandon.